My name is Nick Williams. I'm the executive director of Catalyst Week. And we are a nonprofit that exists to offer experiential education around business and entrepreneurship. We've been in operation for 2.5 years now. We started right at the end of the very first ABQID cohort, which I was in. And right at the end of that, I kind of sat down, I was watching the presentations, and I drew this model of the development of an idea. It could be a startup, it could be a business process, it could be an art project. I just created this model of how you can move an idea from the very initial stages of should we do this to, hey, this is working, let's do this more. And so this is the 5-step process I came up with that's kind of the core of Catalyst Week and really the conception of it. It starts with motivation. Can you do it? Then you move to ideation. Well, what should you do? Implementation. Okay, let's actually do it. Validation. Did it work? And then growth. If it worked, let's do it more. And so you guys can see this is kind of pretty analogous to the scientific method. You formulate your idea of what should work, then you see if it does work, and if it does, you do it more, or you build upon it. So what we've done is we use this both as an external model that we give to the people who participate in our program, and we use it internally to develop our own processes. And we've come up with events that support each of these stages. We really like these events to be stack engaging, by which I mean they have some potential to change how people view their business and perceive and approach their business. We really want to give people new tools that they can use themselves after they're done with us to do more, do better, and all of that good stuff. So just briefly going through what we have to date, we have a Duke Pinball tournament, which happens at the end of each year, and that's a lot of fun. The idea there is to show people that a startup or new business doesn't need to be an app. It doesn't necessarily need to be high tech. It can be something fun where you're just 3D printing pinball parts. Another thing we considered along these same lines was taking people to a ranch down near Berlin where they raise hawks and falcons to sell to hunters. You know, that's a pretty unusual business. And that can, motivate people to get thinking, okay, how can I approach the problems I have and address those? Beyond that, coming up this Saturday, we have an idea luncheon, and that's just to get people talking about things that matter in our community and just help people survey the different ideas and the different challenges that we face, so that can help people come up with new business opportunities, business models, or processes and products for existing businesses. But our main event is the Catalyst Week event, which is the same as the name of our organization. And in that, everyone gets together, we set goals, and we do work to achieve those goals within 10 days. So I'll dig into that a little bit more. After that, we think it's really important to get validation. And I think ABQID and the other accelerators like Creative Startups are really good at that. So that's why they're on the list here. But finally, what businesses need, once they have some success, once they have one store, one product, and they have revenue and hopefully profit and things are working, is how do you scale? And I have a question mark there, and I'll leave that open to you guys because I personally don't think there's any event that is stack engaging in our community that helps with that growth stage, not to date at least. So within Catalyst Week itself, which will start next week, we follow this breakthrough process, which is kind of analogous to the 5 steps I had before that. You set a SMART goal, which I won't get into too much detail there, but it's got to be a specific, precise goal. So you can't be wishy-washy or vague about what you're going to do, and you have to do it within 10 days. So it could be something like refine a business process, figure out where to locate your second store, figure out what other products you could sell, figure out how to improve your customer service, anything. It's really up to you, whatever the challenges that you're facing are. It's really good for focusing on ideas that you've been sweeping under the rug or pushing off. And having worked with a number of organizations over my career, I know that there's always those kind of second and third priority things that are just perennial that come up in the board meeting or whatever. And it's like, oh, yeah, we need to do that. Oh, but these other things are more important. And, there's always these other things that are more important. Well, Catalyst Week is the time to take out those things that you've been putting off and just get them done, and break through that issue. So you set your goal. We work hard toward those goals. We pair each person, each team actually, with mentors that they get feedback from. And we also offer a lot of classes that you'll see on that schedule. Then we have a second weekend where you come back and redouble your effort. And it's very important in my mind that that's actually broken up, because the whole purpose here is to instill habits and good processes in everyone who participates. So if you come for one weekend and you work really hard and then you go back to business as usual, all that learning can be lost very quickly. So we try to overcome that by having everyone come, work really hard over a weekend, go back to your normal work week, and then come do it again a second weekend. And we hope that instills, more of that habitual nature of what you're doing, of this whole process of setting a goal and verifying what you did. And finally, we have an award ceremony where we review what everyone did, and then finally we move on. I actually think this is an undervalued thing, this last point here of moving on. A lot of teams get stuck on whatever their main challenge is or whatever their weakness as a team is, and they keep coming back to that, when really it's better if you can just move from one aspect of the business to another, as a manager or as an owner. You move from one area to another without getting caught up on any particular area. So you can improve all of your business holistically by really honing in on each aspect one at a time and not letting whatever is a central challenge, dominate the whole conversation. So this is some details on SMART. You can look this up on the internet. As I said before, it's kind of analogous to the scientific method. You set a clear goal, and it needs to be relevant to your overall strategy. So it needs to be your strategy is kind of like your theory, in a sense, of how you think everything's going to work. But then you create a specific hypothesis that you're going to work toward, that you're going to try, and you see if it worked. It's very important. In Catalyst Week, obviously, you have a week to do this. But when you're doing this in general, having a firm end date is very important. Don't cut yourself slack, because that kind of ruins the process. And as I mentioned before, we're having an idea luncheon coming up this Saturday at noon. That's a place to sit down with people from our community. We did it last year. It was a lot of fun. We talk about 5 issues that matter to the community, and everyone can just hear what everyone else has to say. No one's committing to do anything to solving these issues. No one even has to agree on anything. It's just kind of a survey of what people's ideas are out there. And so this is, again, a little more detail on the process of Catalyst Week. Now, one thing I want to mention is we follow this process internally as an organization ourselves. So each year we have our own goal of improving and creating this booklet to run a Catalyst Week. And my vision ultimately is that this can be a process that anyone can take to any community and just run themselves. So this document talks about how to find sponsors, how to find judges and mentors, how to find people to teach classes, how to raise money, how to market the event, how to get participants, all of that. And every year we go through that and improve that. And that's an important part of our process. We also change what we do from year to year. So the past couple of years, a lot of our money went toward food, and a lot of that food ended up being wasted. The idea was, okay, we have these people that are working really hard on something. We don't want them to get distracted by having to go find lunch or dinner or whatever. So we actually served 14 meals during the course of the event. But as it turned out, most people wanted to take a break and get out of there when it was time to eat a meal, and not that many people actually stayed and ate the food, so ended up donating most of it. And the food actually was about 75% of our cost. So this year, learning from that, applying this process to ourselves, we are cutting way down on the food, and we're going to have more snack food and stuff like that to keep everyone energized. But if you want to go get a meal, you go somewhere else and get a meal, and you can kind of decompress. Now, many of you may have seen the schedules that I put throughout the room. We're actually fortunate to have a ton of awesome classes this year. Catalyst Week is going to kick off next Friday Wednesday to Friday, with Paul Singh, the investor from 500 Startups, venture capitalist, disruptor in general. He's traveling the country, and he's coming here again starting next Wednesday through Saturday. So that's going to be part of our kickoff. There's going to be a lot of events going on related to that. And then the next 2 weekends, we have all these awesome classes by professionals in our community who are offering their expertise to everyone who wants to be involved. If you participate in the entire event and you set a goal, you can take any of these classes you want for free. If you want to just walk in off the street or you want to support us financially, each class, some of them are free, many of them have a cost that depends on what the instructor normally charges for that material. And so that'll partially go to the instructor, partially go to sustain us. And this is another thing that we kind of used our own process to improve. Last year, we were sitting around and thinking, okay, how can we get people more engaged, more energized about what we're doing? And it's like, oh, I know, let's offer some classes on things we're very knowledgeable in. And we threw that together last second. We did some advertising, and we actually got a few people to come from the community and pay to attend these classes during the last Catalyst Week. So since that, that was validating, so now we're doing this on a much larger scale. We've got lots of classes, more organized by a lot of various professionals in our community. And of course, we couldn't do any of this without all of our sponsors. We've been graciously sponsored by the city, by ABQID, SIPI, which is the Southwestern Indian Polytechnical Institute over in Coors, Law for Small Business. Miss Pleasant is doing some catering for us, and Free Range is offering us their space, as well as Boise Brothers. They're offering us the space for the Idea Luncheon. So thank you to all our sponsors. And finally, I just wanted to talk about kind of our needs and where I see the future. We have kind of, I think, a classic problem that nonprofits face, which is financial sustainability. So every year, we're going back to those sponsors and we're asking, can you give us the grant you gave us last year again? And that's not really a way to sustain. That's not really a way to grow. That's why incorporating those costs with the classes. The Idea Luncheon has a cost if you want to just participate in that and not the rest of everything. And I'm hoping that things like that can help make the organization more sustainable so we can take it to other communities and help grow it. In addition to that, along similar lines, Paul Sautzer actually right here has been involved in the past couple of years, and he said something that definitely hit me last year, which was this all came together as a force of your will, Nick. And that's a compliment, but it's a double-edged sword. I realized it came together because of me, and I don't want to be a bottleneck in this. So I want to be able to be in a position where I can be the executive director and kind of oversee how this thing grows. But for that to really happen, I need to get some other person or people to run some Catalyst Weeks without me so that we can see if the manual I've created is actually good enough for someone to just take it and run with it. I've got someone who's interested in doing a Catalyst Week up in Boulder, but I'd love to have other ones happen around here in central New Mexico or down in Las Cruces or wherever you are to help move this thing forward. And so my ask to you guys, I guess my two main asks are, how can we become more financially sustainable as a nonprofit? And how can I find an heir or a project manager to help run these events so that I'm not always at the center of them? So I'll open it up to the audience if anyone has any questions.